Let's have a little chat, shall we? Let's have a little occult chat. This is your host, The Occult View. It's a lot of shit taking place in the world as usual. And I consider myself a world occultist. I talk about different situations that take place in the world, and I put my occult spin on this. And let me say this as a disclaimer. I don't look at things the same way that other people do, and I'm not supposed to. And that is what makes us unique in our own way. Okay? I talk about things as I see them. I don't talk about them as the world wants me to see them. I don't talk about things in terms of humanity and humanism all the time. Humanity and humanism has its place, but I look beyond that and I ask questions. I ask questions. So I want to be clear about that. I ask questions, not explaining anything to anybody because I really don't give a fuck what people think. But I'm just saying, I want people to understand where I'm coming from. I ask questions. So, for example, if I say, I wonder why did they do X, Y, and Z? Is it because this is their agenda? It's not because I'm trying to make up a conspiracy theory. It's just that I'm asking questions because something in my spirit is telling me that something is just not right or there's more to that story. That's what I do on my channel. You can like it, you can love it, you can hate it, you can fuck it, you can duck it. I really don't give a fuck. If you rock with me, you rock with me. But I don't rock with everybody. I walk with the beat of my own fucking tune. I don't walk with no community. I don't rock with no LGBT community because I'm gay. I don't rock with this community because no, I walk at the beat of my own tune. And that is the reason why a lot of people really don't fucking like me. Truth be told, they pretend to, but they really don't. And that's okay. Just stay the fuck away from me and you won't get fucked up. Okay? And I'm not talking to anybody on YouTube. I'm just saying that in general. I walk at the beat of my own tune. And I see things the way I see them for a reason. And it's not to discount anybody else's feelings. It's not to say that somebody else is wrong because I don't really be checking for too many people that much on YouTube anyway. There are only really one or two people that I really watch anyway. You know what I'm saying? And most of them are women. Because men, I don't mean no disrespect, but y'all are boring. Y'all are boring. It's like watching paint dry, listening to them talk. They're boring, especially the ones who call themselves spiritualists and occultists. They're boring and they're not speaking spirit. I like to listen to spirit, and I'm not going to get that from another man most of the time. This water is good, it's nice and frozen. So, anyway, I want to talk about some things that have been circulating in social media. I want to talk about Miss Hood and the incident that took place in that hot dog shop or carry out wherever, she and her son were at. I don't know where it took place, but it's been circulating in social media, like everyone knows, that there was an altercation, a verbal altercation between this lady who calls herself Miss Hood and this man in this hot dog shop or wherever they were at, right? And I have a few questions about some things that I'll get into later. But first, let me say this. It's one thing to have a verbal disagreement with somebody. You get what I'm saying? It's one thing to have a misunderstanding with a person, no matter what their gender is. I've had disagreements with women. I've had verbal disagreements with women. I've cussed some women out. And you better believe if I cussed a woman out, she probably deserved it. Okay? But it's a whole nother ball game when you start putting your hands as a man on women, especially if she didn't put her hands on you. They can say whatever they want out of their mouths. They can say whatever they want out of their mouths. But when you start putting your hands on somebody, especially a female, and she ain't put her hands on you, you mean to tell me as men in this culture, you are so emotionally deranged that you cannot handle your testosterone better than that you can't deal with a verbal back and forth with a woman, that you have to go and put your hands on her. You feel what I'm saying? And see, I'm going to tell you all the secret and what's really happening. I'm going to tell you what's really happening. And then we'll get to the layman shit. But what's really happening is there is a hatred for women in general, but especially for black women in the black community. And, you know, for a long time, they tried to attach it to just gay men. But no, 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 no. This is something that is universal in the black community. Okay? And I bet you that dude that punched her in the face, he probably was on a dating app calling himself a king looking for his queen. Okay? I think his name was Jeremy Brown. Jeremy Brown. And, you know, people are actually defending him. They're actually defending this person, right? The only thing we see is a verbal dispute. He's telling her to get her food, get her food, get her food, right? That's all we see. Then someone gets in the view where you can't really, you see him gearing up his fist to punch. Now, if this is really real, if this shit wasn't staged, because I question everything. If it wasn't staged, then he was gearing up. They were having a verbal altercation. She in no way was indicating that she was going to hit him. He said to her, say one more thing. Say one more thing. He said that to her. And then he hit her in the face or wherever he hit her at, because we couldn't see because someone got in the way. And I found that to be very suspicious. I really did. But nevertheless. So what I'm saying is this. Let me get back to what I'm the bigger picture. Because see, I look at the bigger picture. I don't just look at the surface level shit. I like to look at the bigger picture. And the bigger story is that it's showing worldwide that black men in this country, probably abroad too, have no real respect for black women. And I'm not saying that, you know, men and women don't have verbal disagreements. Like I said, I've gotten into verbal disagreements with women all the time, a lot. But at the end of the day, let me explain something to you. And not because I have to, but because I'm making a point. Any woman that I've had a verbal disagreement with, it's not because she's a woman. It's because she did something to me that was fucked up and foul. Okay? If I dislike a woman, it's because she did something to me. It's not because she's a woman. That's the difference. But these particular breeds of men now, they dislike you because you are a woman. They dislike you because you are a woman. They are too busy trying to be like you. And I don't care if they're straight, gay, bi, it's a universal thing. They're too busy trying to be like you. That's just like when I see a lot of these motherfucking men sitting up, trying like that Caramo Brown show. He's sitting up trying to be some, you know, a version of Oprah Winfrey, trying to give out wisdom that women used to be in that position to give. And now they've moved the women out of the way and they've given these positions to these backwards ass, you know, weird types of men like a Caramo Brown. I don't like him. I remember when Caramo Brown was on the Next 15, I never thought that he would be a person that they would give him his own talk show. His talk show is ratchet. And what people don't understand is it elevates him in a position that he doesn't deserve to be in. And it really shows the worst types of people. But anyway, what I'm saying is this. That guy, Jeremy Brown, you can tell that he hates women. He hates women. There's a difference between just having a disagreement with a woman versus hating women just because they're women. And that is what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with a group of men who hate women because they're women. Because a lot of these men, they wish they could grow them a vagina in their ass crack. A lot of them wish they could grow a vagina on their mouth. See, that's what we're dealing with right now. And it doesn't matter what the sexual orientation is. That's the universal shit that we're dealing with now. Am I talking about all men? Of course, no, I'm not. And I really don't like saying that, because if you're stupid enough to think that I'm referring to all men, then you're just fucking stupid. You're just fucking stupid. But we have to acknowledge what's happening. I don't get into disputes with females if I can help it. I don't argue with women if I can help it. But there are some men that go around and they just look to go around arguing with other women all the time. I argue and go back and forth with other men. I jump on other men. That's mainly who I go after. That's that's what I do. And people looking all at me like I'm crazy because I tell them I may be gay, but I'm a different breed. See, I'm not like these other fucking niggas. I'm not like them. You know what I'm saying? Now, what will make me go over the fucking edge, and I don't care what your gender is, you fuck with my mother, you fuck with my life. I don't care what your gender is. You know what I'm saying? Just like a couple of months back, somebody that my mother knows, this lady, had made a threat that if my mother showed up somewhere, somebody was going to do something to my mother. I called that bitch up and I said, where, bitch? How, bitch? You threatened my motherfucking mother. I don't care what your gender is. You feel what I'm saying? So going back to this whole thing in that hot dog shop, that young man that shot that dude for hitting his mother, he was in the motherfucking right if that story is actually true. He was in the right. Because I think that any son, including myself, would have done the exact same thing. I know I would have. I know I would have. But again, we have to look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is there's a hatred that is circulating within the universe for women in general, and we have to understand, where is that coming from? I'll tell you where it's coming from. It's coming from all of these different agendas. Calling people, well, number one, calling women cisgender. First of all, if a woman doesn't want to be referred to as cisgender, she should not have to be. And I don't give a fuck about any of you motherfuckers out there getting mad about it. I stand with the women when it comes to that. If they do not want to be, why should a biological woman, and I'm saying this as a gay man, why should a biological woman, that's a spell, why should a biological woman have to take on a title that does not really apply to her? What's wrong with a female just being a biological female? What is wrong with that? And who are these people to come in, no matter who they may be, who are they to come in and say, this is what you should be called, and this is what you should, and I'm going to put you in this category. You ain't putting me in a motherfucking category. I am a solitary gay man. I put myself in the category that I want to be in. Can't no nigga or motherfucking bitch put me in a motherfucking category that I don't want to be in. And when I say bitch, I ain't necessarily talking about no females. I'm talking about anybody who who tries to attack my integrity or my humanity or take away my right to live and be who I want to be. And that includes cults. Let me explain something to you, and I don't give a fuck who it offends. Like I told you, I'm a different type. The LGBT community or QI community really does not represent real gay people. It represents fake gay people who pose themselves as homosexuals or gay people to promote certain agendas that benefit them, okay? That benefit them. And like I've told you all before, you have people who sit up, stand up, lay down, and they have so many issues with two consenting adults doing what they want to do, but they never speak out against sexual exploitation of children. They never talk about that. You know, I remember years ago, there was this guy who was harassing me online. His name was Justin. He was a bitch motherfucker. Or at least that's what he claimed his name was, Justin, but I found out it was something else. And he was attacking me for being gay, right? He was attacking me for being gay because he didn't like gay people. But what he did was he pretended to befriend me, right? He pretended, this is how psychopathic and pathological men can be, especially men of color, including Latin and black, because this person, even though he pretended to be black, I think he was Latin, right? I don't know, okay? I don't know, but follow me. He says to me, have you ever spoke out against homosexuality? His whole storyline was homosexuality, this. Now, I'm a solitary gay man. I don't tell nobody they should be gay. I mind my motherfucking business and I stay in my motherfucking lane. I was having conversations with other people about different things. He decided to attach himself to a group of people that I was associated with at that time, in a circle that I was associated with at that time. He attached himself to us because he didn't like the founder of that group because of what she stood for, which she stood for was actually protecting children. And he didn't like that. But he never talked about pedophilia. He never talked about protecting children. He was only concerned about homosexuality and what two grown men are doing in the bedroom. He was a psychopath. He had homosexual tendencies, and he was a sociopathic person with probably a borderline personality disorder. He was a stalker, and he was a weirdo, and for all intent and purposes, I think he probably was a pedophile. Now, I'm just going to keep it motherfucking real. I heard something the other day. Where this guy was saying some very disgusting things about children sexually. He was on, let's just say, on a social media platform doing it. And it just dawned on me. Talking about he was looking for men who had an interest. He was saying this publicly. He had an interest in men who had an interest in motherfucking children. And I said to myself, what type of demonic weird shit is this? But I bet you that type of motherfucking dude, he's the same type of dude, because you have to understand these type of men are chameleons. He's the same type of dude that would dress up in public and tell women, you're too fat, your titties sag, your belly's too big. Or then he'll tell gay men, you just an old ass man, you just a man, an old man, laying up with other men. This is the same type of energies that are out here. And I don't know how I got on this subject, but I'm an earth and water sign, so, we're all over the place sometimes. But he's the same type of energy that is out here harming women. A lot of these dudes, like I told you before, they don't want relationships with adults, no matter what the sexual orientation is. They want to bring in this sick pedophilia type of bullshit. And they want to tell adults that we're wrong for indulging in sexual pleasures with each other. You know what I'm saying? And let me say this on a side note. Nobody can attach to me that I hate women because my face has been up in too much puss. Okay? Okay? My face has been up in too much puss. Yeah, gay men mess around with women sometimes too. I've had my experiences with puss, and my face has been up in too much puss. And so is my wee wee. Okay? No, no, not to be graphic, but I'm just saying. But the women that I've messed with, well, that one was 16 when I was 16 years old. I wasn't messing around with men then. But the women that I messed with, they know what's up. They know what's up. The women I have messed with, it was just a touch and go situation. Okay? It was fun. I enjoyed it. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But these particular groups of men, let me get back on topic. Like this Jeremy Brown, they hate women. And women have to stop being bamboozled by these types of men. They call you queen. Hey, queen. They call you queen, right? I'm looking for a queen. That's all I see in social media from all these motherfucking niggas. I'm looking for a queen. And this can apply to white men too. It can apply to all types of men. I'm looking for a queen. I'm looking for my forever. Then you find a woman, you find her, and then you do everything in your power to destroy her. So she's no longer the queen anymore. Now she's a bitch. Now she's a hoe. Now she's a slut. Now she's the worst person in the motherfucking world. And the reason that I'm speaking about this is because of the things that I've seen growing up in my family. Let me tell you all a motherfucking story. My grandmother died when she was only 44 years old of a massive heart attack. And my step grandfather, he wasn't my real grandfather, but I mean, nevertheless, he was the grandfather that I knew. But he was very mean to her. And he used to beat on her. Come to find out, years later, maybe a couple of years ago, my grandmother's friend, childhood friend who's still alive, who also happens to be my mother's godmother, she told my mother, she said, let me tell you something. She said, your mother did not have that massive heart attack out of nowhere. She said, your mother had that massive heart attack because and my grandmother had extremely high blood pressure as well. And what people don't understand about these ailments, they can be brought on by physical trauma and emotional trauma. That is why my grandmother couldn't get her blood pressure down, because this motherfucker was beating on her. And I'm calling him a motherfucker. I don't care if he's dead or not. He was beating on her. So she couldn't get her blood pressure back in check. Okay? She couldn't get it back in check. She couldn't get it down. But right before she died in 1987, he beat her up. He beat my grandmother up right not long before she died. And then she had a massive heart attack. You know? And I remember when I was a child, right before my grandmother died, she had kind of distanced herself away from me. I wasn't going up there a lot. I wasn't seeing my grandmother a lot. Then the next thing I know, they tell me my grandmother is dead. That she's dead. She died of a massive heart attack. The point that I'm making is this. A lot of these ailments that are brought on by that women end up getting, it could be because of the type of man that they're with. It could be incompatibility, and it could also be the fact that he was beating on her, and he was a Gemini. He was a Gemini. He was a Gemini. Gemini men can be very abusive. They can be very, very abusive, verbally and physically. He was a narcissist. He was a Gemini. He was a bully. You know, he tried to control people. He got mad at me, years later. He died in 2002 of a massive heart attack. Talk about karma. My grandmother died in 1987. He died in 2002. But anyway, he got mad at me years later because I was grown. I didn't want to be around him. I didn't want to be sitting up around him, especially knowing what I knew about him. But people like that, they want you to sit around them. They want you to coddle them because they are cowards and they live in fear. Just like that bitch ass nigga Justin. He was another Virgo like I am. He was a Virgo. And I know how calculated Virgos can be, especially the men. I know how they can be. The women too, but mainly the men. What I don't understand about my uncles, how is it that all y'all sat around and watched him, except for one uncle, one of my uncles, the one I actually don't really get along with, he was going to actually kill his own stepfather for beating on my grandmother. But she stopped him. She stopped him. She should have let him do it. She should have let him do it. She should have let him do it. But my uncles, they sat around and they laughed and grinned and they didn't do a motherfucking thing. They didn't do a motherfucking thing because they're cowards too. It's a good thing that I was not the age I am now when all that shit was going on. It's a good thing. Because it would have been a big motherfucking mess. It would have been a big mess. You beating on my grandmother? So that is why I say that guy, that young man that took that dude's life, it was much deserved for putting his hands on his mother. Because people like that, they hate women anyway. They are a danger to women, especially black women. Just like the story that came out today about that doctor out there in Arlington, Virginia, who beat up his assistant. She was a black woman. They got into a verbal altercation and he beat her up. He beat her up. He beat her up. I might put the story in the description box if I feel like it. All because she asked him a question that was related to the job. And it's on recording. And of course, he doesn't see anything that he did wrong. A lot of these doctors are very perverse, violent people. Okay? I've dated a doctor before. And trust me when I tell you, they are very perverted sexually. They are very perverted sexually. Now, whatever went on between us, that's consenting adults. And when I say perverted, I mean the fantasies that they have. Okay? The fantasies that they have, the things that they like. Not necessarily a bad thing, because like I said, we're both consenting adults. You feel what I'm saying? But when I look at all of this, when I look at my step-grandfather, when I look at Jeremy Brown, when I look at that doctor that beat up his assistant, I just look at all of the hatred that these men have for black women. The hatred that they have for black women. And that's what's not really being addressed. It's being swept under the carpet. We're not saying that, the same thing that happened to Shanquilla Robinson. What do they call it? Femicide? Femicide is a real thing. I'm not talking about having a disagreement with somebody and y'all get into a verbal back and forth. I'm talking about the deliberate, hateful actions of trying to emotionally and psychologically traumatize a woman simply because she is a woman, or simply because you don't like women. You have a hatred for women. See, when you're secure in anything that you do, you don't have to have a hatred for anybody. But as we know, a lot of these men are not secure. They're not secure. They are very insecure men, and they are very insecure people. Then they're walking around with these skinny jeans on, letting their head grow all out. I don't like, let me tell you something. Like I told y'all a long time ago, it take a whole lot of man to deal with my type of energy, okay? And the only man that could deal with my type of energy, truth be told, not even my friend to stay with me, but the only man that could truly deal with my type of energy, the only man that could have was Chris, my friend Chris. That was it. And Chris was a Gemini as well, but he was a different type of Gemini. He was a different type of Gemini. Now, if I had known him longer, I don't know. I might have a different story to tell. You feel what I'm saying? But it take a whole lot of man to deal with me and the type of energy that I have. And I've realized that most of these men, if they're not man enough for women, they definitely ain't man enough for me. And that's all I got to say. I got to go. Hey,